What was your reaction when they said it's methanol poisoning?
Violated. It's actually crazy that you don't learn about this at school. You've got to treat it like there is no medical care. Think about the bartender. Do I trust this person with my life?
Hey everybody, I hope you're keeping well and welcome back to another episode of The People Who Do Good. Today I'm joined by someone whose bravery, courage and vulnerability are truly remarkable. Last year, Bethany Clarke and her best friend Simone White were travelling through Laos when they were unknowingly exposed to methanol-poisoned alcohol. Bethany survived. Sadly, Simone didn't. Bethany is here today to not only honour her best friend's memory, but to also raise awareness on the dangers of drinking alcohol abroad and the things to be aware of. This is a difficult conversation, but an important one. So without further ado, please welcome Bethany Clarke. Bethany, I'm so excited to have you on today. Massive warm welcome to The People Who Do Good. I'm really thankful for your time. The topic that we're discussing today is something that's really sensitive, and I appreciate that your time is so precious because I know you've done multiple interviews already speaking about this, and so you giving me your time today to go over the same story, I'm just really thankful for, so thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So to give a bit of background, I won't say too much because this is your story and I'd love you to tell me exactly how, in your words, what happened. But in November last year, you and your best friend Simone White went travelling around Southeast Asia, which was a 2-week trip. Was that correct?
Just over, yeah, about 2.5, yeah.
And very early on in your trip, you visited Laos, which is a typical destination on that Southeast Asia trip, that route everyone takes. A lot of young people in their 20s are visiting this country. And when you and Simone were there, you were doing just what any other backpacker would be doing. You were staying at the Nana Backpacker Hostel, which was a very popular hostel in Vang Vieng. And yeah, you both had drinks just like anybody else would be doing, but they weren't legit drinks, were they?
No, we were doing the tubing during the day, and that was sort of the whole afternoon. I remember getting off at the various spots to have drinks, and I remember saying to the other two, so Simone and the other friend that we were with, do you think that these drinks will be okay? So I obviously had something in my mind that was like, not sure about this place, because these bars were kind of like shacks, I suppose. And both of them were obviously like, no, they'll be absolutely fine, like whatever. And then, yeah, that night we went to the hostel for happy hour drinks. They had a big sign up on the wall that they were serving between 8 and 10. You could choose between vodka or whiskey. So we got down there just after 8 and had around 5 or 6 drinks there, and we were just mixing vodka shots with Sprite that we purchased from the bar. And we'd met a couple of other people there. They were also drinking, and I think it was about 10:15. I decided to go to bed because I just had enough. Could be that the methanol was already kicking in, I'm not really sure, but I just felt quite tired and went to bed. And the other people went to another bar that we went to the night before, which was absolutely fine. And then they both came back at about midnight, and obviously I was already asleep. Then we woke up the following day. We had a tour planned. So we had the Blue Lagoon and kayaking tour, which again are like very backpackery things to do in Vang Vieng. And yeah, we all woke up at about 8ish and just felt we weren't quite right. So we hadn't really put our fingers on what it was, but we all said we felt quite fatigued at the time and a bit disorientated, like not really being able to balance properly. And I think with hindsight, our brains probably weren't at full capacity either. But anyway, we started the tour, and I just remember thinking that Simone, for most of that Blue Lagoon tour, just wanted to sit down a lot. and neither of us wanted to swim. We had no appetite, so we did eat something, but we just, very unusual for us after drinking, just absolutely no appetite, which again is kind of so important for travellers to know about, because sometimes people think it's like barley belly, but actually it could be methanol poisoning, because the symptoms do overlap. So like vomiting, diarrhoea, stomach pain, things that actually I didn't experience, but they are also methanol poisoning symptoms. So yeah, we then went on to a kayaking tour, and again I felt that something wasn't quite right, because Simone and I were having to lay on the backs of the kayaks just looking up into the air, because we just couldn't even sit up straight to paddle. We're having to be sort of led around by people that we were with, and people running the tour were having to paddle on our behalf. And then we got back to the hostel because we needed to go on to our next destination, and that's where our bus was. And we ate a little bit, got on the bus, and during that journey our other friend called out to me and said, "Biff," which is what Simone used to call me, "can you get off the bus? Simone's being sick." So I got off. Obviously I was asleep, so I got off, and then I fainted myself and hit my head in the process, because obviously no one caught me. And Simone kind of finished off being sick, and then we got back on the bus. Nobody around us seemed to take any interest in what was going on around us, happening to us. And our other friend, who was obviously more with it than me at the time, suggested to the driver, "Can we go to a hospital?" So that's where we went. It was just a public hospital, and I think that was the problem. So our other friend went in. Simone and I had just waited outside because we didn't know what was wrong with us. We just thought, oh, well, we don't want to sort of be too over the top here. Like, let's just see how it goes, especially if it's related to alcohol. This isn't going to go down well. After a while, I went in to check on our other friend, and he said that he'd been diagnosed with food poisoning. And obviously, given that we all had different diets and I hadn't got any stomach problems or anything, it didn't make sense to me. And I was trying to push them for a diagnosis, but they were like, no, like, it's that, basically. So I started on the same treatment, having IV fluids and some anti-sickness stuff. And then eventually Simone also came in after quite a delay. So she got in there probably about 6 p.m, something like that. And then around 8:30, 9 o'clock, she then started to go into respiratory distress, which is basically where she was just gasping for air, couldn't talk to me. She was moved into a separate part of that hospital, which was like an ICU room. Bear in mind, this hospital is very sort of deprived, full of local people, and it was just one big ward with a very small separate side room for her and a couple of other people. And they had oxygen up her nose, and they said she's really agitated, so they had to restrain her as well. And they suggested, could it have been amphetamine? And I said, well, no, because we know we haven't taken drugs unless somebody's spiked us. And yeah, at this point I'm thinking, obviously this cannot be food poisoning. It also can't be a hangover, because you wouldn't be struggling to breathe like that. Sort of, this would have been 24 hours after we consumed the drinks at this point, which is the danger zone of where these things can start to happen with methanol poisoning. Symptoms can start between 12 and 48 hours, so it's right bang in the middle when she started to get severe issues. And our other friend was well enough to be able to be Googling on his phone, and he'd worked out that there was a private hospital, so he'd gotten the phone straight away to them once she'd started to have her breathing troubles. And they kept saying, oh, we need to see the insurance documents. But of course, because we couldn't pull up our insurance documents, we had a major issue there too. So by the end of that, I think they got to us at about 10:30 after 3 phone calls. The last phone call that was a success, I had to get the phone over to the doctor that was looking after Simone for them to actually persuade the private ambulance to come and get us. So we clocked into the private place at about 10 to 11, something like that. And they took all the passports. Obviously, I was kind of in and out of sleep at the time. And they said, we'll do our best for her. She's got here a bit late, but, we're going to do our best. And all I could think was, well, we've all had the same stuff, and they'd already diagnosed us with metabolic acidosis and said to us, yeah, it's to do with methanol poisoning, but they couldn't prove it at the time because they had to send the results on to Thailand, and that took 2 weeks. So they kind of said we're 99% sure it would be to do with what you've consumed. You must have drunk something that was counterfeit or homemade or whatever. And yeah, ultimately woke up the next day and they said Simone's doing a bit better. So I contacted her mum. Her mum initially wasn't too panicked, but then as time went on and she still hadn't come out of sedation, I had to speak to her mum again and say, look, I think it might be best for you to come out because I'm not really sure what's happening. Then they suggested doing brain surgery, which we then later found out wasn't appropriate for somebody that had experienced methanol poisoning because her brain had swollen and it was already damaged, so that brain surgery really wouldn't have actually done anything. So they did the brain surgery after a couple of blood transfusions because they needed to get her platelets up high enough to actually do the surgery in the first place. Luckily, there was a bit of a delay with that, so her mum, as she was being wheeled into theatre, her mum managed to see her. Obviously, her head was shaved and everything. And then several hours later, we were told that although it was successful at reducing the swelling, there was a bleed on that side of the brain. And then as the hours went on, we found out that the other side of her brain was swollen. And that was when they said, look, regardless of what we do here, she's going to remain in a coma. So you can do another surgery, but she's going to be in a coma. So obviously there was a lot of communication issues as well, and that was because they spoke Thai and obviously we didn't. There was no real interpreter there that could help us much. There was somebody, but the English still wasn't kind of good enough to get absolute clarification, so we had to sort of rephrase things several times to get the meaning right. But we got there in the end, and yeah, we just we knew that it wasn't good, and that they'd basically said, look, we're going to have to wait for her to die naturally. And obviously for somebody that's 28, that can take quite a long time because we're waiting for the vital organs to stop working, so the heart. And at this point they'd said that she'd got about 5% brain power, but obviously that's enough to keep a heart beating. The electrical conductivity of the heart will just continue going. So it got to a point where the consulate ended up getting involved because we said to him, like, there's only so long we can do this. Like, we were obviously traumatised, we'd been poisoned ourselves, extremely paranoid. It got to the point where our other friend was saying to me, do you think this bottle of water's safe? You think they could have poisoned that? And the paranoia was just unreal. And obviously the whole experience was so surreal, and it was like living in a nightmare. You genuinely you'd wake up in the morning and be like, oh my God, is this real? And of course it was. And so Sue actually had to turn off Simone's life support, and took her 3 attempts because they were Buddhist and they wouldn't be in the room with her to show her how to actually do it. But yeah, after about 3 goes, she eventually got it off. And I think she died within about 30 minutes of it all being turned off. And then obviously we'd found out about all these other people that had been affected as well, as all of this was going on. So that was obviously concerning to think that a hostel that was doing happy hour every night, we'd managed to all land on the same 2-day period where all of us had managed to be poisoned, and we met 2 other girls in that same hospital who needed dialysis. So obviously they were struggling more than I was. One of them had got temporary blindness. Both of them had got temporary blindness, one of whom still has ongoing issues. And then obviously recently we found out about Callum McDonald, who's gone completely blind from drinking the night before us. So I suspect that whatever was served on that Monday night must have been very, very potent, because there were the 4 girls who died, 2 Australians, 2 Danish, and Callum, who became blind, and then those 2 other girls who drank that night. And then from the second night, the Tuesday night, the only person that I know of is Simone that died. So I think she would have maybe drunk something that was served that Monday night. And sorry, that was really long, but yeah, that's what happened.
No, honestly, I wanted to just give you that to tell, because this is your story. And firstly, like, how are you, Bethany? Like, I can't even I cannot begin to comprehend, like, and everybody else as well that will be listening to this and has listened to your story, how do you take that in and process all of that information? And now I just couldn't imagine it. Like, it really breaks my heart just hearing what happened. Like, you're 28. Simone was 28. Yeah, how are you, firstly?
Thanks for asking. I was obviously really struggling back when it first happened, but all I can say to you is that I think time heals, and it has to an extent, but what I would say is that I'm genuinely so pleased to not be experiencing that anymore. So by doing any of this other stuff that I'm doing with the campaign, news stuff, or going on national TV, whatever it is, it's all so much easier than what I had to experience. So it's like everything else is a piece of cake, to be honest. Like that's the way that I kind of have to live my life now. But yeah, Simone was also somebody who was very motivated, was always busy, and was the planner, organizer. So I feel like now that she's gone, I'm really having to kind of find that part of me that's prepared to sort of not only get the awareness out, but she was also somebody that I would confide in a lot as well. So it's I'm having to have a lot of counselling, basically, to not only deal with the trauma but to actually work on myself, because I spoke to her literally every day and there was no hello or goodbye. It was just continuous, like, WhatsApp voice messages and all the rest of it. So obviously it's a huge shock. And even now, like today, I was just thinking, oh yeah, my best friend's died. And like that comes up daily, and it's like my brain hasn't quite like clicked yet. So it's definitely a slow process.
Yeah, I read up as well. I saw that you said every day you would look forward to a voice note from Simone, because you two always would voice note each other, and you said that you always used to look forward to hearing her voice messages in the morning. And like I can relate. I've got my girlfriends, and I'm not the planner. I've got my friends who are the planners, and and yeah, this is like something so unnormal that you don't expect to lose a friend this early on, especially due to methanol poisoning, something that people do not have any awareness on. I'm speaking about myself here. I had no clue. I'm trying to like think back to beforehand, and I'm like, did I even know what methanol is? That sounds really probably quite silly, but I feel like I didn't even know what methanol was. Going back to your story and the night and over those couple of days that from you drinking, what was your reaction when they said it's methanol poisoning?
I suppose shock, and I suppose you kind of feel, this is a very strong word, but I think violated would probably be the word that I would use. It came up in a counselling session actually about something completely unrelated, and my counsellor pointed out that violated was a very interesting word to use in the context that I was using it in. She said, well, that makes sense, because you would have been violated the night that you drank those drinks that were served to you, because you wouldn't have expected to have been poisoned by them. So it's obviously something going on in my unconscious mind that I haven't even kind of got out yet. But yeah, like you just don't expect something that's served to you as vodka in the place that you're staying, that was on Hostel World, was suggested to you on multiple blogs. It was all over Instagram and like, all of these influency things. And I suppose I'm trying to de-influence people away from thinking that you should drink spirits abroad. That's my message, really. And I think people are getting it. And it's not just happening in Asia, it's happening in places in Europe as well. And then we had a case in Brazil over the last week. Yeah, it's honestly happening in a new place almost every week. And if you go onto the MSF website, Doctors Without Borders, you can see the true extent of it. And next week I'll be speaking to Hannah Powell, who lost her eyesight as a result of drinking in Zante. So it'll be interesting to speak to her about what happened. But yeah, it's actually crazy that you don't learn about this at school. And as you were saying, like, I think I knew what methanol was. I knew that it was within antifreeze and like industrial chemicals, but obviously I never thought that I would be consuming that. And I knew that I shouldn't drink homemade alcohol as well, but I didn't think, again, if it's sold to you as vodka, well, not sold, but you're suggesting that it's vodka. You're not thinking that you're just drinking like happy water or something, and it's coming out of a glass bottle. You just assume that that's what you're drinking. I suppose I didn't think about it too deeply because I've been away with Simone so many times drinking shots or whatever in Thailand, China, Vietnam, Bali, and to be honest, it's an even worse issue in Bali. I'm surprised we didn't get it there, but I do think that when we went to Vietnam in 2017, I had something a bit funny there, but Simone didn't, and it's only recently that I've actually managed to pull the symptoms together, and I think perhaps I was poisoned then as well, because I remember going back to the room early, and I got these like bright lights in my vision, and I just kind of thought, oh well, I'll just sleep it off, it'll go away, and then when I woke up it had gone. But apparently that is kind of optic nerve related, so it's something going on with the optic nerve. So whether that was a spiking incident or whether it was methanol, I don't know, but there was definitely something not right about the drinks that I had in Vietnam. So yeah, that's just two of my experiences over the 10 weeks of traveling around Southeast Asia. So the statistics there are pretty bad.
Yeah, I just think, so if we go back, I've just written some facts about, so what is methanol basically? What is methanol? It's a simple toxic alcohol found in industrial products, like you said, Bethany, antifreeze, paint thinners. It's clear, odourless, flammable liquid with an alcoholic, it's like similar odour to, if there is any odour, to ethanol, which is alcohol. 30 ml is a fatal amount, and 15 ml can cause blindness. Even taken as little, even as little as 10 ml, you're going to find there's problems. You're going to have some serious problems. And the symptoms, like you said again, they start appearing 12 to 48 hours after consuming the drink. I just think I went to Bali. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, go on.
I went to Bali a few years ago just for a girls' holiday. And I briefly spoke to the girl that I went away with before this interview, and she knows about your case and things that have happened. And there was one particular night on the Gili Islands, and we just had a massive night out. And just like we would do here in London, I can't tell you how many vodka shots I consumed. And that was the first thing I thought of, because I thought, I heard about your awful tragic story that happened in November. Like I said, I was 2 weeks into my trip at this point, and your story shaped my whole 6 months. I just would not touch alcohol. I was so paranoid about anything. Had beers, I had bottled drinks. But it's the culture of travelling. You are given free shots. I was in hostels in Thailand, and you're sat there all like kind of just chatting and stuff, and the reps come over with bottles, and they're like, put your neck back, like they're doing it in your mouth for you. And like you think it's okay because these reps are British, Australian, German, and you're like, oh, it's fine, like. And you do just think it's fine. And when I think back to that night out I did on Gili Tea, oh my God, what I would do differently then. Luckily, I didn't have any problems. But when I spoke to my friend about it, she went, Molly, there is no way you could have consumed that many vodka shots. She went, it was definitely a watered down version, because I couldn't. I just could not have. Vodka is so strong, I gag at the thought of it and the smell of it. So I think now, what the hell did I drink that night? I don't know. I like I said, luckily didn't have any problems, but it's so easy, and I'm a very paranoid and overthinker, and I think, God, for me to just be like, yeah, let's just go, like drink, like, it's the culture, and it is really scary because there's nothing you or Simone did wrong, and that's the worst part. You didn't do anything wrong, and you saying you felt violated, absolutely, I completely agree. I would feel the exact same. You've been given something that wasn't legit,
and you trust. I think it's the trust as well. Like, that's the thing. The government advice says don't accept drinks from strangers, right? And loads of people comment on my reels being like, oh, well, don't take drinks from strangers. All right then, so if you're going to go into a bar in London, you're not going to trust the person that's serving you. It's the same concept. Like, you should be able to trust the person that's serving you. But unfortunately, it may not be that person that's put the methanol in the drinks. They don't know. So whatever they're serving, they think is safe. But it's the person that gets the alcohol in, the person that buys it in, or however they get it. They would be the person that would be responsible for this. And I think people would be asking, in watching this and thinking, well, how does methanol actually end up in those drinks? And there are two main schemes of thought about how it can happen. So we've had people reach out and say, oh, well, you would have drunk something brewed up in someone's kitchen. So when I spoke to the toxicologist who was heavily involved in this case, Dr. Hovda, Oslo University, he basically said out of all of the cases that he's seen, so he works with MSF, there has never been a case of home-brewed alcohol that has caused deaths to this extent. So he said it's highly likely industrially added methanol. So that could be, for example, a factory that's got to get rid of a certain amount of... So when you make alcohol, there's a certain amount that you've got to discard, and then that bit you wouldn't use. And you could maybe use that for making hand sanitizer, let's say. You could use it for something, but just not for human consumption. So it could be that that's been discarded, and then that's been bought by somebody, and they've said, oh, well, I'm going to use it to do hand sanitizer or whatever, or make antifreeze or whatever the hell they want to do with it. But actually then they're using it for a purpose that it's not fit for. That's one theory, but the other theories I have are also similar to that. So it would be, you've gone onto a website like eBay, but maybe the barley version of that, and then you go on there, have a look if they may be selling rubbing alcohol, and you may not know that rubbing alcohol isn't for human consumption, and you might just start making, I don't know, limoncello or whatever the hell you want to make. And then obviously we had that case in Vietnam, didn't we, where they were drinking limoncello, and actually the parents of Greta had gone over there, drunk limoncello from that same restaurant before, and they bought that bottle for the couple to have on Christmas Eve, and then obviously they've consumed that and then passed away. So don't really get how that's happened. It was homemade limoncello, but obviously the suppliers of that, it just doesn't make sense, and unfortunately that restaurant is still open as well.
See, that's what's like really shocking. Yours happened at the Nana Backpacker, and I walked down the road it was on, and I saw it when I was in Laos in January this year, and I took a photo of it, which I'm actually going to put in the edit now. You'll be able to see the photo. And also there was a sign next to it saying it's closed due to ongoing investigation, etc.
But they did do it up, and it's supposed to be opening again, and it's called Central Backpackers Vang Vieng. We've got people working for various newspapers and media outlets trying to find out when the reopening is.
So this hostel is reopening?
Apparently so, and there's somebody in Australia that's going to be going out there soon to see, what the situation is, whether it's the opening or not. But I think it's supposed to be opening again in the high season, so whenever that is. I think maybe later this year. I don't really know when high season is there.
My goodness. Yeah, so this is kind of this is like a major problem that is gonna target young people, unfortunately. And when I the typical age bracket, I think this is just me from my experience, is like 18 to 28, 30, like 28, 20, like I felt very mature being out there, and I'm 26, 27, and I felt like one of the olders out there. So I met a lot of 22-year-olds. It was kind of like that bracket of people. And when you go to Asia, there are no restrictions, there's no rules. You can rent a moped without a license. You can, it is appealing for young people, because they're like, yeah, why would I go to Spain or somewhere like that when I can go over to Thailand? It's so cheap. Or Asia, anywhere in Asia, it's so cheap, and I can do what the hell I want and live my best life. But this is just like, this seems to be like a growing problem, and like you said, I can't believe how many countries this has affected.
Spain as well. Somebody reached out to us recently saying that their daughter got poisoned in Magaluf. So yeah, it's happening everywhere.
Magaluf, oh my word. Do you remember what the drinks tasted like?
Yeah, I do, but I suppose because I didn't drink it neat, it's very difficult to sort of say definitively, but I think it tasted quite diluted. I would have guessed that it was just diluted with water, and it was possibly a little bit sweeter and a bit weaker, but obviously I had Sprite in it, so hard to tell, but I didn't feel like I needed a lot of Sprite with it, if that makes sense. So whether they had maybe used a bit of water in it as well, to sort of dilute it, I've got absolutely no idea. But yeah, it just makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what on earth have we been putting into our bodies over these years? Because in amount of all-inclusives I've been to, where they've all been watered down, and you just assume that it's just water, but God knows, you just don't know.
Do you think that's why the effects didn't hit you as hard, because it maybe you had lemonade with it? Not that, well, sorry, no, you would be happy if they were given as shots. Do you think it would have affected you a lot quicker?
I don't think it would really make much difference how much. I mean, you might drink it quicker, I guess, if you've had shots rather than mixed drinks, but I guess we must have been drinking pretty quickly to get 5 or 6 down in 2 hours, but yeah, mate, I'm the same as you, though. I can't really drink shots, and I certainly can't drink 5 or 6 in one go and then go out. I suppose in a way, I kind of wish that I'd gone on for more drinks, because then that might have meant that my symptoms were pushed back like our other friends were, because they'd had 2 extra drinks where I hadn't. So they became symptomatic much later, and they were still able to kayak and do all of those things. And I think cognitively they were a little bit better than Simone and I, because I'd had no drink to buffer it, and Simone had, but I think whatever she'd had, she must have had much more potent methanol than me, because it just doesn't make sense for her to have deteriorated to that extent, and obviously I have no repercussions at all.
Do you think, because you said you went to bed at 10 o'clock, around 10ish, and Simone and your friends stayed out a bit later, do you think she continued drinking in that time period?
They had two more drinks in somewhere that was very reputable, so I don't know what she drank, because they can't remember what she had, but I suspect it would have been something with ethanol in it, so it would have been like maybe 2 cocktails. I highly doubt she would have drunk beer, but maybe. So yeah, I think that would have helped. It did help the other 2, but it obviously didn't do anything for her because of the amount that she'd consumed of methanol at Nana's. It should have done a lot more, but it just didn't.
And I'm also going to pop in the photo that you sent. You've got a picture of when you got in touch with Nana the day within those few days of the poisoning happening. You asked them, and they sent you a photo of the bottles, didn't they?
So we didn't actually ask anything. Our other friend messaged them just saying, stop serving this, you're killing people. And they carried on replying to him, and then he just said to me, I'm not going to keep going because this might jeopardise any investigation. I don't want to give them any more information. So then they started messaging me saying, can you ask your friend to get back to Nana's? And obviously I didn't reply either, but they ended up sending me a load of CCTV footage of us sitting there trying to deflect the blame away from the hostel, trying to make it sound like we'd drunk drinks at the tubing that would have caused that. But of course we met so many people who didn't do the tubing or who drank canned drinks at the tubing, so we just know that it had nothing to do with the tubing. And then obviously they were trying to deflect the blame away by saying they went to another bar, which obviously I didn't go to, so we just kind of know exactly where it happened. And obviously the charges that were proposed were absolutely pathetic as well, even though we know exactly, 6 people died literally there or had drunk there. 2 of the girls were found in their rooms and I think had already died pretty much, and they were taken to a hospital like very, very late stage. The Australian girls were taken to hospitals in Thailand, again pretty late stage. And we were the only group really that kind of managed to get to a hospital, but obviously not the right one. If we'd gone straight to a private hospital for Simone, she'd still be here today. So I suppose it's also spreading that knowledge of, if you're going to a country like Laos, it's sensible to sort of have your insurance documents printed out so you're not faffing about trying to work out what your PIN is or what your mate's PIN is. If you can't do that, put it into a WhatsApp group chat so that everybody's got each other's insurance details so that you can liaise with hospitals or whatever if you need it. Just making sure your parents know where you are. I mean, my dad didn't even know that I was actually in Laos. He thought I was just doing Cambodia because I was only meant to be there for 4 days. And Cambodia was the main part of the trip, and Laos was kind of just added on last minute because Simone fancied the idea because they're together, So, that's my advice really, and making sure you've got a power bank so your phone's charged. And you've got... The other thing I didn't have any internet on my phone. So I was just using either Simone's phone or I was using our other friend's phone because he had 4G. I didn't pay for 4G. Simone had a work phone, so I didn't actually need one because I just thought, oh, well, at any time I'll be with one of those guys, or I'll just use my Google Maps offline, so I'll be fine. It wasn't a big, let's get really sort of pissed holiday. It was really just supposed to be quite a chilled, let's relax on the beach kind of holiday in Cambodia, and then obviously we just chose to add these 4 days on to just see the main bits, literally just 2 nights in Vang Vieng and 3 in Vientiane.
It just makes me feel even sadder because you just think that wasn't even like on your trip. And from what you said, you and Simone have been travelling to Asia before together. So this was like
we did 6 weeks, yeah.
This was like another added on, just another part of Asia that we're going to see together and explore. And so you're aware of kind of what Asia's like, and
we'd done pretty much all of the rest of that sort of trail. We did it all a bit weirdly really because we should have just done it all in one go, but I think for whatever reason we didn't want to do that long trip that you kind of did, so we just did bits here and there rather than doing a whole country thoroughly. We done like little bits of Vietnam, little bits of China, little bits of Thailand, but then we ended up going back to Thailand another time and we kind of did other bits. But we kind of exhausted everything, and they were the last 2 countries that we were just kind of going to tick off. But Simone loved Asia, and obviously I used to like it before this happened. But that's not to say that I don't want other people to go and experience it. I think it's a different culture, it's worth seeing, but obviously I think people just really need to be realistic and not just listen to the influencers, and I think this is just a bit of de-influencering that we need to do, and just say you've got to treat it like there is no medical care, you need to be so prepared, and taking a bottle of ethanol with you, good quality alcohol, because ethanol acts as an antidote. So if you were to drink a dodgy cocktail, you suspect you've got methanol poisoning, you can start drinking that and it will stop you from hopefully becoming blind or starting to develop the difficulties with breathing. So I think for anyone going anywhere like that who does want to take risks, like drinking spirits, although I don't advocate it, I know that people will, that's definitely something that people need to be doing, because you just don't know what you're drinking over there really. And it's almost like you've got to think about the bartender, do I trust this person with my life? That's what you've got to do.
That's basically it, isn't it? Do I trust this person? And it's, no, you shouldn't. Just always be safe than sorry. Just have a beer. I hate beer, but I just made myself drink beer if I felt like I just wanted a drink.
I hate beer. Yeah, I hated it. And so that's the thing. Simone didn't mind beer, so I wish we'd known about this, because I would have just said to her, you can drink beer, and I probably would have drunk the cocktails. You know, it's just, I mean, now knowing what I know, I wouldn't. But, like, beforehand, you know, I wouldn't ever have drunk beer, and she would have done.
I read about that as well. That's really interesting, that if you suspect methanol poisoning, to drink proper branded alcohol, ethanol, it would, it acts as it can...
Stops the toxic metabolites from kind of surging through your bloodstream. Yeah. Again, it's not something that's taught to you in schools, but from September 2026, it will be in England and Wales. So people will know the risks associated with drinking spirits abroad, and they'll know of the risk of methanol poisoning. But we're still going to try and get it into Scotland and Northern Ireland and Ireland, and there's so much more that needs to be done, and obviously we haven't got it into airports or anything like that in the UK yet.
Yeah, so this is where we're going on to now. You're advocating for methanol poisoning to be taught within school curriculum and to have that message over here in the UK, because I couldn't find anything, Bethany. When I was doing my research, I found one thing on the Gov website, but I had to dig. You had to dig for it. The only thing that really happened, when you type in methanol poisoning, it comes up with the awful cases that happened, but it hasn't got any advice, guidance. There was something on the Gov UK website with Laos. When you click on safety travel requirements, there was a little section when it was going on, but it's been removed now, so it's gone. And before I went travelling, there was a little, each country I would research every country before going on the Gov website, on the travel requirements, just to check everything out, just to see what's happening, what I needed to be aware of. And I would see that, and then I saw the Laos had it was reporting cases of methanol poisoning, but it's not there anymore. However, in Australia, which is... You're in Australia now, so, and there is a lot more awareness over there, because I guess Asia is closer over to Australia. They say Bali is like the Ibiza for Australia, so a lot of Aussies come over and they're going to Bali. And I mean, Bali is a very, very glamorized, beautiful, Instagrammable place that people go to. And from what I read as well, that you said people have had methanol poisoning at famous beach club like Fins,
Atlas, yeah.
That is a major.
So I think again,
and I think again, it's like just avoiding those free drinks, especially because I think from the people I've spoken to, that's generally where it comes into it. But again, in Bali, things like they use the same bottles and they can refill with other things. So even though it says Grey Goose, it probably isn't. So it's just not worth. It's not worth drinking spirits in Bali. There's a whole Facebook group, Just Don't Drink Spirits in Bali. It's been running for about 10 years. And Colin Ahern, who leads it, has been banging on about this for that long. So generally Australians are a little bit more clued up about methanol poisoning, but obviously for those two young girls to die, it wasn't talked about enough. But yeah, the government over here have done a lot of different things. So they've got it in airports. They had screens up and they had posters up on the backs of toilet cubicle doors as well. And they're hoping to get there's like an NGO called Red Frogs, which is hoping to go into schools and sort of talk about methanol poisoning as well. It's going to be really difficult to get it on the curriculum here because there is no set national curriculum for sort of PSHE or RSHE or whatever we're calling it in the UK. They don't really have that as so much. They kind of have it state by state, so you'd have to change it state by state, and that's probably a bit too much for me to do. But yeah, I think it's all kind of under control, to be honest. Over here they seem to be so much more clued up, and they've got the Partying Safely hub as well, So if people are asking me for posters and things like that, I usually point them in that direction, because they've got things that you can stick up for hostels, for universities, youth clubs, whatever. So yeah, that's it really. And obviously I'm working with Ashley King in Canada as well. She's blinded in Bali a number of years ago now, and she's trying to get schools in Canada to do the same thing, and as well as airports. So we'll see what we can do. It's a big task.
Yeah, it just sounds like a massive task, but for you to take something just so tragic that hasn't even happened a year ago, you've come such a long way. I really do commend you, Bethany. I don't know how you're doing it. I think you're absolutely bloody amazing. I really do. And for someone to have gone through this and the outcome for Simone, like, honestly, my heart just really, really, really goes out to you. I just think you're, like I say, amazing. And there needs to be more done over here in the UK, because, like I say, lots of young people are going. And we are approaching that time of the year where people are starting to get ready to go on their backpacking trip. So I really do just hope, even if someone listens to this and just goes, oh my God, I never knew about methanol poisoning, and go, right, I'm going to just think a little different here about how I'm going to work the whole alcohol party scenes when I'm in Asia. I actually carried out a little bit of research on my behalf with on some on my socials with just people who I know, and a lot of people that I met during my 6 months abroad. And I set up a little questionnaire, only 6 questions, but I just was so intrigued to hear what people's thoughts were and their responses, because again, I didn't know, and I'm just learning as much as everybody else at the moment. So some of the questions were you aware of methanol poisoning before you went travelling? One answer I had was, I didn't realise for one moment it was something to watch out for whilst travelling. I'd only heard of it being a thing in the 1920s, prohibition. Everyone tells stories about drinking homemade rice wine in Vietnam, etc., and it all seems perfectly safe. So when I heard of methanol poisoning in Laos, where I'd travel and drank, it really shocked me. What is methanol, and how can it end up in alcoholic drinks that travellers might buy? My knowledge is that dodgy manufacturers put it in as a way to cut costs, or it's created as a byproduct, which is then not removed in cheap and illegal manufacturing. Did you hear of anyone around you falling ill whilst you were travelling in Asia? No. Did you ever take free shots at a hostel? Yes, it was honestly the done thing. You check in, you get a free shot, leave a review for the free shot, etc., etc. That was something I really found. They want you to leave a review for pretty much everything. So it's that exchange of, we'll give you a free shot, you leave us a review. In fact, the hostel which had the incidents in was one I drank at years ago. At the time, there were no reports, and it was known that even if you weren't staying there, you could go along for a free buffet and mixed drinks.
And can I just interrupt you there just for a second? I've had 6 or 7 people who have stayed there reach out to me and say, I think it happened to me. So if that's just the people that are accessing our campaign page, then I dread to think how many other people it's happened to. And I even had one girl who's like in the Leeds area. She ended up like emailing her MP saying, you know, can you sign this early days motion, and can you get involved with this, because I think I was poisoned in that hostel too. So it's obviously happened a lot more than the media knows about.
Absolutely. I was shocked, when she said that, you go along for a free buffet and you get mixed drinks. I know people look at backpackers as reckless, but it genuinely felt as safe as accepting a free drink in any other continent. We had no reason to believe it wasn't safe. If you were to go travelling this year, what would you do differently in terms of alcohol consumption? Definitely in Laos, I would stick to bottled beer, but I don't think it would stop me drinking spirits or cocktails in any other countries like Thailand, which it borders. And then what do you think are the early signs and symptoms of methanol poisoning? They may seem dizzy, complain of a headache, and throw up. So these are just some answers that some really kind people who helped me out with some research that gave me. But a lot of them said, no, I don't know what methanol poisoning is. And a lot of them said, yes, I do take 3 shots at a hostel. No judgment at all, because I did it as well when I went to Bali a few years ago. I did it. And
we've all done it. Yeah.
We're all doing it. And I think some people are going to be a lot more paranoid about it now, but some other people will think, okay, I'm aware of it, I know what to do, and I know I'll just stick to bottled beer or bottled drinks, which, it's just really awful. And I think because a lot of people have seen these cases happening in Laos, they're going to think it's just Laos, and it's not.
Well, it's happened in Fiji as well, even though they came out and said it wasn't. But somebody ended up in a coma, so I'm not really sure how you'd be in a coma from having a pina colada. I don't really get that.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, I guess to round this up, Bethany, I'm just, like I say, I honestly, reaching out to you, I thought I would just be so lucky to speak to this girl, because your story is just so, it's just really tragic, and I'm just so sorry again about what has happened, and you just would not wish this upon your worst enemy, and I'm really sorry, and I think what you're doing is really commendable. It's really incredible. You could have easily sat on this and just thought, this is just it, really. I can't see a way to get over it. I'm going to have to just do my own process and heal in my own time. But you've kind of taken that head on, and you've actively or campaigning to get this changed and make people more aware. And I think it's really incredible. And I hope that people watch this, like I say, and will just think differently about their backpacking trip. And you've got your Instagram account. You've got your Instagram account, which is Simone White Methanol Awareness. And this page is amazing. This has got everything from people who have been poisoned by methanol, like you say, the people that you're working with now who have got permanent damage, eye blindness from drinking methanol. And it's got lots of facts, statistics. You're constantly keeping up to date as well with new reports. And you've got your campaign as well that people can sign their petition. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we've got the Change.org petition. We've got my one, which is UK and Australia, and it's tied to the Canadian one. So just one signature would be great from everyone listening. Just takes 2 minutes to sign. You don't have to donate or anything. It does say that you can, but that doesn't go to us. It just goes to Change, and it's not necessary. So, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, like I say, if anybody watching this today has got any questions or wants to reach out to Bethany...
Absolutely, yeah, here to answer any questions. So, yeah, love to hear from everyone. Yeah.
Thanks, Bethany, and have a lovely evening.